Today's episode is brought to you by the University of Hawaii, College of Tropical Ag and Human Resources, and the Livestock Extension Group.
Aloha, welcome everyone to Livestock Walaʻau, a podcast aimed to provide educational support, information, guidance, and outreach to our livestock stakeholders in Hawaii. We are your hosts, Melio Shiro and
Shannon Sand.
So today we're going to discuss why we should keep records, livestock records, that is, not like music records, livestock records.
It does sound like fun.
And yeah. And also give you some updates of UH and some of the COVID-19 plans for the fall.
And then our guests for August, we're going to talk a little bit about them, but mostly about record keeping. Exciting stuff because it's important, but I'm also biased. So
yeah.
All right. So let's what do you say we talk about updates on UH COVID-19 plans?
Yes, that sounds good.
I think it's obvious, that numbers have gone up and because we're in separate rooms, in separate locations, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the things have just changed a little bit. Numbers have gone up for the past couple of weeks now.
A new variant is kind of exploding, it sounds like.
Yeah. So I think in our last update, we shared that we would be returning to campus, all employees on August 3rd, and not be teleworking. However, that has changed and that rescinded order has been rescinded. So we will still be teleworking. Option will remain in place for majority of the employees unless they're needed for operational uses or things in the office. So our clerks, I believe some of the offices will still be open. But as we said before, if you're coming in and you have a question or whatnot, always call ahead because
I think especially right now because like I said, things have changed obviously since we last spoke. So
so we want to just take this short podcast or little mini podcast that we do to take time to sit down and talk a little bit about why we keep records. And I think there's a lot of reasons why we keep records of our livestock. Shannon?
Taxes, insurance, knowing how your animals are grading historically. There's lots and lots of things. So when we say records, I generally, because my background is ag economics, business management, marketing. Wow, it sounds a lot longer than it should, but it is. My focus generally is a lot of times related to like the finance side. So taxes, insurance, but it's also important because I come from a farm and ranch family. And while my dad is not a record keeper per se, he does have the little notebook that he keeps in his like breast pocket. And my dad has kept records for years. And my mom, bless her, because she's an amazing mom, has turned those into like electronics. So we actually my mom has they have records dating back I think 4 or 5 decades now. So quite a while. And I mean, it's just really handy to have because my dad, while he doesn't care, he does care about the finances because he wants to make sure they're not going broke. But for him, it's always, he loves the grading and to know what it is. So they have I think 3 decades, maybe 4 now worth of grading records in terms of how the animal graded out and stuff. And so that's been very helpful in terms of looking at your breeding program and what you want to breed it to and how's that.
Very important. Yeah. They're very important. And I don't think if you don't know what you're producing, you don't know how well you are managing those animals. So that's extremely important. And records don't have to be fancy, like Shannon said. It can be a little notebook you stick in your pocket. It can be, everybody has a smartphone nowadays. Enter it into your notes, simple things of dates. And in my aspect of looking at records too, it's a health thing, right? So if you have an outbreak on your farm, how many animals you have, when the last entry was, or
when you last vaccinated or when you last wormed them.
Exactly. All those little details, and having it, not just keeping the records, but knowing where you put them. And, if there's multiple people that are on there, having a clipboard as you enter into a barn or into your workspace or whatnot.
Or having a shared note. So my siblings and I, when we make purchases and stuff, so we actually everybody has an iPhone. So, but if you don't have an iPhone, because iPhones, you can do shared notes. So that's what I do with my siblings and my friends and stuff for different things. But then also the beautiful thing is if you have, again, a smartphone, like Google Docs, so you can have a
Yep.
shared Google sheet. And I use that a lot to keep track of finance stuff. And yeah, I mean, there's just all kinds of apps out there. There are specific apps related to like record keeping for like ag. And so I was like, there's just so many things out there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of different options. There's lots of different programs. But basically, you know, a pen and paper
It's
or
just as
pencil and
easy.
paper is
Yeah.
just as good.
And save your
And just,
receipts.
you know, yeah, it'll just, and you know, it'll just help. It'll help in your
Mhm.
daily, you know, your own management of your animals. Like Shannon was saying, the grading is very important. And if you can't get in there to actually grade your animal, just do a simple body condition of your animal, you know,
Yeah.
looking at, you know, keeping their age, that record of their body condition and when they went to slaughter and whatnot, you know, that also is an important thing.
Yeah.
And just, you know, so understand that. So keep records.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I generally take things more from a finance side. So like I think it's important because I was like, a lot of times it's a smaller business, but you still want to know that you're at least breaking even, because that's
Exactly.
important. I mean, a lot of people have off-farm jobs, but again, like, and it's an enjoyable thing and you love doing it, but you still want to ideally be breaking even and stuff, or, you know, keeping track of it, because, you know, you don't want to be sinking the ship too much. You need to keep the lights on and all that stuff. But and I would also say, like, if you're a smaller farm, if you can separate out the expenses from the house, that's great. But sometimes that's not possible because you have the same electricity running, the barn, let's say, or shed, or like the water pump that you do run in your house. Because my parents, again, I'm just going to pull from my personal experience and stuff. I was like, it's all on the same power line. So, and it all goes to the same box. So it's very difficult. So it all goes into like one column, basically, if that makes sense. So, and then we have ways that we attempt to separate it out later. But yeah, I mean, I think record keeping is so important, especially right now with everything, because prices are changing. You know, like there's droughts going on that, depending on which island or county you're in at the time this is being recorded. And so, I mean, there's lots going on right now, I feel like.
Yeah. So they can be, you know, very useful.
Yeah.
For you to plan ahead for the markets that you're in. If, you know, if your farm or ranch is your sole entity, and that is your only source of income, then extremely important to keep records, and you probably already do. So, but for those other folks that are just, you know, doing smaller lots of stuff or livestock, you know, on the side, that's still important. And I think for my aspect of health stuff, that's really important, because
from a biosecurity standpoint,
and you know, if you get something that goes through, you know, when it happened and where the animals came from, or all those kinds of stuff, those things are very important, you know. So, or
if there's like a, God forbid, like some sort of weather event or eruption, I was like, you need the records in order to collect any sort of like insurance or government payouts. You got to have them, because otherwise they don't know what you did. Even if it's, again, like, just keep the little, like, you know, notebook in your pocket. I was like, my dad's almost 80, so that's his preference, and that works out really good. So I definitely am pro record keeping.
Definitely. Yeah. And you know, like you can have the financial records, you can have the health records of your animals, you can have their you know, their grading records, grazing management records. Those are all things that are important, you know, and it does turn around and impact you if you do go for other kinds of grants, or if you're looking for loans and whatnot. You know, some of those folks are going to require for you to show what you've been doing, or the numbers you have on there, and kind of make those numbers jive with each other, you know, because that's going to be a requirement of some of the grants if you do apply for them. So that's another good reason to keep that, you know, and keep those.
And like I said, like my dad always does like just keeps it in his pocket and he writes it down immediately. And then my mom enters it into the computer Excel sheet, because my dad, I think he could turn a computer on, but I can't guarantee much more than that. So I love my dad, but I was like, you know, like so we've been lucky that my mom is really good with computers. And so she's the one that's done a lot of that for years and years and years. But And if you don't want to do that, there's all kinds of software. There's apps out there now. So it's like, there's lots of stuff. And this is going to be basically like a mini series within our like mini episodes. So we hopefully don't bore you too much and we keep it kind of short, but we're going to talk about some potential different apps that you could use for some of these different things. And Melly's going to talk about record keeping for things like BQA. So hopefully it'll be interesting for y'all. And, we'll get some good ideas, hopefully some feedback from everybody and kind of hear your thoughts. And then, but I just think that records serve such a purpose. And the problem is a lot of people also keep records in their head. And if you don't write it down, I don't know about y'all, but I don't remember what I ate for breakfast a week ago. So
yeah.
I think that's
I can't remember what I ate for breakfast today. No.
Well, did you at least eat?
Did I even eat breakfast?
Yeah,
Maybe I didn't. Yeah, that might be the problem. Right?
So I'm very excited about this, and Melly and I kind of had to talk about like doing this as a mini series and doing some mini series in our little updates, as we call them, or our mini episodes. So but hopefully y'all will enjoy this, and we're kind of excited about it, I think.
So just a way for us to share some of the resources out there to make record keeping a little less daunting and a little bit easier. And with all the electronic devices that we have nowadays,
there's convenience with a lot of it.
Some of it can be more convenient and some not. So like I said, paper and pencil always does the job, but there's we like to share some of the other things that are out there.
Or a calendar, because I know I know people that like have like physical calendars on the fridge, and like when a calf is born, like they'll just go write the date and which cow it's out of and the sire and stuff. So I was like, I mean, there's so many ways to do it. We're just going to talk about some of those and the uses. And I think especially in our age of like our digital age and record keeping now, just to really apply for any grants, to get any loans, to get any sort of like if there's again any sort of disaster, like you have to have records. I think that's something that we've seen this last year, because there were different payment options and stuff for ag, but I was like, if you don't have those records, it's not going to help you a lot. So
then you need to know your inventory, and on some of those larger herds and whatnot, it might not be so easy. So so Melly looked up all the exciting National Livestock Days in August, and she found some really good ones. I'm very excited. I'm not even going to lie. So Melly, what are they? Well, August 13th is National Filet Mignon Day. So we all can go out and have one of those August 13th or every day, if you'd like to. And conveniently, August 21st is our World Honeybee Day. And so with that, I want to introduce our next podcast this month, where we will be talking with our pollinator ecologist for the University of Hawaii, Dr. Christina Mulgren, or Chrissy, as we call her. She will be talking a lot about the effects of nutrition and dietary diversity with our health of our honeybees, which is a emerging field for them in pollinator ecology world, I should say. But she'll be sharing a lot about building your apiary here in Hawaii and things that you need to be aware of if you're getting started, or if you are already have your colony started here. So
it was a great conversation. I learned so much. It was so exciting for me, but also I love honey. So I feel like,
well, it's interesting to just hear about a little bit of the history of bees and the colonies and apiary in Hawaii, in the state, and how it got started. So, and how they are considered livestock. So they are in that realm now, and how much they do already and have been for a long time contributing to our livestock. So, anyway, look forward for that, our next podcast that will come out shortly after this update that we are doing today.
Thank you for that, Melly. So make sure to join our Facebook page, the Livestock Extension Group, if you haven't already. Be sure to visit the CTAHR Extension website and our YouTube channel listed in the show notes.
Yes, and for additional information about this and other topics or comments, send us an email at walaʻau@hawaii.edu. That's WALAAU@hawaii.edu. Thanks for listening to the Livestock Walaʻau.
And before we go, show us some love by leaving us a review, and then stay tuned for next month's podcast.
Ahuyo. Till next time.
Mahalo.